Music festivals and concerts are a blast, where you can experience live music with a ton of people looking to have a good time. But they don't always go so well. From leaving hundreds of fans stranded on an island in the Bahamas to huge riots with multiple people even dying at some of these events, these are the biggest concert disasters in music history. Starting off with the infamous Fyre Festival. Fyre Festival was supposed to be an amazing festival, hosted on an island in the Bahamas with a bunch of influencers, tons of big artists, gourmet food, luxury accommodation, and even a treasure hunt with $1 million in prizes. The trailer made it look like the festival of a lifetime. However, this was not at all what fans ended up getting. Fyre Fest was an idea created by a guy named Billy McFarland alongside the rapper Ja Rule. They wanted to make an app called Fyre for booking talent, so this was their way of promoting it. They came up with the idea of having it hosted on a Bahamian island, so it would be some sort of vacation getaway festival, and I don't think this has ever been done before, so it was a pretty vapid goal. So in 2016, Billy leased the island and went straight to promoting the event with a bunch of supermodels like Bella Hadid. They also paid a bunch more influencers to promo the festival on their Instagrams, with people like Kendall Jenner shouting it out. But there was a bit of a problem. The island that they leased, Norman's Key, was thought to be owned by Pablo Escobar. When Billy leased the island, they said, "Do not mention Escobar." Regardless though, Billy said that it was owned by Escobar during his promo run, which led to the owners of the island canceling their agreement with him. So Billy and his team had 4 months to figure out a new island and plan everything and restart. Most normal people would have canceled it, but not Billy. By the time they got another island, they had 2 months until the show. They also didn't get a full island, just one section of one called Great Exuma, but they photoshopped it to look like an entire island on their website. Keep in mind, by this point, they had already said that artists like Tyga, Ray Shremmer, Pusha T, Migos, Lil Yachty, Blink-182, and more would be there. Tickets for day passes were going from $500 to $1,500, with the VIP packages, which included airfare and luxury tent accommodations, going for $12,000. Tickets eventually ended up selling out to what they estimate is 5,000 people. Things were ramping up, and from a fan's perspective, in just 2 months they were going to have one of the best weekends of their lives. But then the public started to receive some bad omens. Before the festival, New York Magazine put out an article saying that the festival was extremely underprepared. A talent producer went there and she said, "I was excited, at least at first. This was a development lot covered in gravel with a few tractors scattered around. There was not enough space to build all the tents and green rooms they would need." Apparently, Ja Rule made a statement in response saying, "To living like movie stars, partying like rock stars, and f***ing like porn stars," and decided to keep going. Then Wall Street Journal reported that some artists hadn't been paid what they were owed. With only weeks until the festival was supposed to happen, things were looking rough. A documentary maker said it well when they said, "The organizers had 6 to 8 weeks to pull off something that should have taken close to a year. They gave up on the idea of luxury villas and started using hurricane tents that looked like little domes to make the housing." Billy also enlisted the help of a ton of locals who he needed for assistance with setup, and he promised to pay them after the festival. Problems kept popping up, so what Billy did was lie and lie to more and more investors to get their money, and he was basically just paying his way out of every single issue that would pop up.
I lied to people. I lied to investors. I lied to sponsors, and the lies were around this idea that I had where I needed to raise more money, or I thought I needed to raise more money to execute the festival. I did everything I could to try to pull that festival off. Looking back, there were thousands of management decisions I made that were totally wrong and totally incorrect that, of course, contributed to the failure. But at the end of the day, I lied to a lot of people who were supporting me and were supporting the vision, and that's inexcusable.
Then, one day before the festival was set to begin, artists started pulling out. Blink-182 came out and said they aren't performing because they were not confident that we would have what we need to give you the quality of performances we always give our fans. Then, there was a big storm on the island that ruined the festival grounds, which at the time were still severely underprepared. The following day, fans started to arrive, and this is when things went terribly wrong. This is what the luxury villas were supposed to look like according to the website, but fans got something way different. Immediately, it was a disaster, with the luggage all being mixed up, people having to fight over tents and mattresses that weren't soaking wet, and no one had any idea what to do. And the gourmet star chef catered food thing didn't happen either. Instead, they were given cheese sandwiches. You guys ever had a cheese? I don't think I've ever had a cheese sandwich. One attendee posted a video to Twitter saying, "So, Fyre Fest is a complete disaster. Mass chaos, no organization, no one knows where to go. There are no villas, just a disaster tent city. I mean, look at the security lockers that they were provided. As you guys can imagine, this was a huge failure, with tons of concert goers basically stuck on an island with no concert, hardly any food, and everyone trying to get home. And since there were so many people there, this was a very public failure, and you can watch tons of videos on YouTube of people vlogging their experience. Ja Rule made a statement saying, "We are working right now on getting everyone off the island safe. That is my immediate concern. I will make a statement soon. I'm heartbroken at this moment. My partners and I wanted this to be an amazing event. It was not a scam, as everyone is reporting it. I don't know how everything went so left, but I'm working to make it right by making sure everyone is refunded. I truly apologize, as this is not my fault, but I'm taking responsibility. I'm deeply sorry to everyone who was inconvenienced by this." I had to include that quote because it's just so funny how he really tried to emphasize it's not my fault, it's their fault. And as you'll see, to be fair to Ja Rule, he was right. They announced the next day that the festival was canceled and that they were trying to get everyone home safe. And this is the part where everyone found out that Billy was scamming. Like I said, he was getting a ton of money from investors, promising all of these returns, and then not giving any of it back. He never even ended up paying the locals that he hired to help him. So in 2018, Billy was charged with wire fraud and was sentenced to 6 years in prison and was ordered to pay back $26 million in restitution. Like I said, Ja Rule didn't end up getting in trouble because he wasn't really that involved. But since Billy was lying to all of these people, made all of these false promises, and caused so many problems for the travelers and locals, he got a lot of backlash. And I think the people who really suffer the most from this are the locals. I don't feel too bad for the concert goers. I mean, there was even a restaurant owner who gave $50,000 of her life savings to help cater, and as you can imagine, she was not paid back. So this was very clearly a huge public failure. And I think the funniest part of this entire situation is after getting out of jail, Billy tried to do a Fyre Festival 2. In 2023, Billy said there would be a Fyre Festival 2 and wanted it to happen in late 2024. He put out 100 tickets for $500 immediately, likely looking for some initial funding. Originally, it was going to be hosted in the Caribbean, but in February of 2025, Billy announced it was going to take place in Mexico in May and June of 2025. They put out 2,000 tickets for sale, ranging from $1,400 to $1.1 million, which is an all-exclusive for 8 people, and they were also promised they would be in some sort of documentary. Then the festival was supposed to take place in Isla Mujeres, I think I said that right, but they said they knew nothing about it. So again, the location was changed to Playa del Carmen in Mexico. After all of this, obviously people do not believe Billy at all, and then things took a turn for the worse again. And that was when Fyre Festival 2 was indefinitely postponed. On the bright side, ticket holders got full refunds, and Billy did an interview with CoffeeZilla to explain what happened.
What is actually happening? Is this still happening, or it seems, or are people getting refunds, or both?
So both. One, Fyre Festival 2 is still happening. The date has not been set. We have an offer, locally in the New York City area to do it on the same dates, and then we've also have a couple of different Caribbean island countries that the team is doing site visits with over the next couple of weeks. So the location would determine the dates, and that would obviously determine if it's postponed. In the meantime, ticket holders are being refunded. So yeah, we are certainly refunding people and hoping they will, rebuy once Fyre Festival 2 is announced.
The funniest part about this interview to me is Billy explaining that he understands why criminals get out of jail and then go back to their lifestyle, which doesn't really sound great in my opinion when he's talking about doing Fyre Festival 2.
Getting out of jail is really hard. And I think that's why recidivism is really high across all different kinds of crime.
The CoffeeZilla interview was the latest news in the story, and Billy tried to act like he was handling this very wisely and patiently, but then right after that, it turned out that they were selling the Fyre brand, so Fyre Fest 2 is likely dead. An even more ironic fun fact is that Ja Rule was also going to perform at another festival called Vestiville in Belgium, but Vestiville ended up becoming what many deemed Fyre Fest all over again. So it seems like at least Billy and Fyre Fest aren't the only ones guilty of poor planning and execution. And while Fyre Festival was a complete failure all across the board, the Astroworld Festival made a grave mistake when it came to crowd safety. The Astroworld Festival was a yearly music festival in Houston hosted by rapper Travis Scott. It was launched in 2018 when he released an album of the same name, and being such a big artist, it was pretty easy for him to get some big acts as well as headline himself. The festival ran in 2018, 2019, skipped a year for COVID, and came back for its third year in 2021. The event was managed by Live Nation and streamed live by Apple Music. They were expecting expecting over 100,000 attendees, but because of safety concerns, they limited attendance to 50,000 people. However, this was not enough to stop Travis Scott fans. I specifically remember the day of this concert, and I was seeing videos on Twitter of people flooding the festival grounds. And there were other videos too of people jumping the fence, and I think I even saw them break the fence in one video. By this point, they were already sold out and had hit capacity, but there were hundreds and maybe even thousands of people flooding in without, proper tickets. So because of this overcrowding, it resulted in multiple people getting crushed in the crowd during Travis Scott's set. His set began at 9 p.m. and just minutes later, there were 911 calls from the crowd. Around this time, even more people broke in, with one getting injured, which led to some of the paramedics having their attention elsewhere during the show. Then around 9:30 p.m. is when things really went south. Videos started flooding the internet of ambulances trying to get through, people being carried out, and people screaming saying it was too crowded, all while Travis was performing. There was even this ominous video of Travis singing while security was taking away someone who had passed out. He did stop the show 3 times, so it appeared he was trying to help when possible.
Somebody help him. Somebody pass out right here. Somebody pass out right here. Hold on, don't touch him, don't touch him. Everybody just back up.
Regardless, this created a big controversy on Twitter with people saying Travis should have stopped the show. There was also a video where he saw the ambulance, so clearly he knew something was going on.
What the fuck is that?
And there were even videos and pictures of fans dancing on top of the ambulance that was ever so slowly trying to make its way through the sea of people. There was also videos of people chanting for Travis to stop the show. People were begging the cameraman to stop the show, and it was just chaotic. The concert ended after 10 p.m., and by that point, 8 people had passed away. And days later, in the hospital, 2 more people passed away as well. The youngest of victims was just 9 years old, and the oldest was 27. So tragically, many of them were very young. The cause of death was compressive asphyxiation because they were crushed in the huge crowd. I actually had a friend who was at this festival, and he said he was a ways in the back, but he said he had no idea that people were literally dying as he was just enjoying the concert as normal. Regardless, this was the deadliest rap concert in history and one of the deadliest in the United States. Right after the festival, Travis Scott responded on his Instagram.
I just want to send out prayers to the ones that was lost last night. We're actually working right now to identify the families so we can help assist them through this tough time. My fans really mean the world to me, and I always just really want to leave them with a positive experience. And anytime I can make out, anything that's going on, I just stop the show and, help them get the help they need, I could just never imagine the severity of the situation. We've been working closely with everyone to just try to get to the bottom of this. The City of Houston, HPD, Fire Department, everyone to, help us figure this out. So if you have any information, please just contact your local authorities.
And this response was terrible. Between the black and white filter and him just rubbing his head the whole time, it came off as really disingenuous. But some fans think that Travis Scott really was upset. Years later in 2023 on the track My Eyes, Travis said, "I replay them nights and right by my side, all I see is a city of people that ride with me. If they just knew what Scotty would do to jump off the stage and save him a child." Regardless, to this day, a lot of people blame Travis Scott. An investigation was opened immediately after the incident, and the second night was canceled. It turned out that 23 minutes into the show, a cameraman radioed the production team to tell them that people were dying. Apparently though, the production team didn't understand how real that plea was, so they just kept things going. A concert goer said by the second or third song that they saw multiple dead people on the ground. Investigations showed that they were knowingly underprepared and understaffed. The Houston police had warned Live Nation that the venue was too large for them to handle. Apparently some of the audio team actually told Travis what was going on. Tons of lawsuits were filed, but Travis never really suffered too many consequences. because at the end of the day, the understaffing and overcrowding was the biggest problem, which caused fans to blame event organizers. And the police report never led to Travis facing any legal repercussion. However, a lot of people still like to blame Travis because of his overall attitude about his concerts that he's talked about years prior on other songs. For example, on his song Stargazing, where he says, "It ain't a mosh pit without no injuries." And there was even a video of him encouraging fans to jump over the fence at a previous concert.
First of all, I don't fuck with this. All real Rangers fans, jump over the fence now and get here right now. Let's go. Security, don't you touch him. Don't you touch him.
So because of these things, a lot of people did place the blame on Travis. There were also a lot of crazy conspiracy theories saying that this was some sort of satanic ritual, which added more fuel to the chaotic fire. Not too long after the festival, Travis did an interview with Charlemagne the God in which he said he didn't think he was to blame.
Some people say your music played a role in this. Like I've seen them, cite lyrics, that encourage this kind of behavior. I've seen them say your music is demonic and this was a satanic ritual. You think your music is to blame?
I mean, no. I'm a man of God, so that's the first thing first. And so it's just, yeah, that's that. And your music is just like self-expression, you know what I'm saying? And at these shows, I feel like people kind of like look at things, and if you've been to a Travis show, it's been different layers of shows,
Mm-hmm.
I think people are just, misconceptions and taking things they're seeing and, all type of things, and I've took pride in trying to, grow from where I was when I first recorded music to now where I'm going in music.
Regardless of who's at fault, this was still one of the most poorly managed, poorly handled, and deadliest concerts in the world. This was a huge deal, especially in the rap community. I remember every single rap show I went to after this, they were always heavily stressing, like, if you see someone fall, pick them up, let's be safe, let's be cool here. So hopefully on the bright side, this situation would inspire a new generation of safe and careful and respectful concert goers. And while this concert was just another in the long list of deadly music festivals, Woodstock 99 may take the cake for the most notorious music festival of all time. Woodstock 99 was the second attempt at recreating the glorious Woodstock Festival of 1969. It was a festival that had 32 acts performing and had over 460,000 attendees. If you don't know much about this festival, you could probably just ask your grandparents, and I'm sure they'll tell you how big of a deal it was. In 1994, they attempted to recreate it, but this festival wasn't anything special. But nothing would compare to the second time they tried to recreate the original Woodstock hype in 1999. The festival was located on the previous Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome, New York. Already it's a pretty rough start with how hot and dry this area was, especially since most of the festival grounds were actually just, concrete, the Air Force tarmac. And apparently the temperatures got as hot as 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 Celsius during the concert weekend. When planning similar to the Astroworld Festival, they were understaffed and had a large amount of people there, with people even making fake passes to get in. They estimated that the amount of people that attended was 220,000. They were also charging a lot of money for food and drinks while only having a small amount of bubblers throughout the festival grounds. This was because of poor planning and a lack of supply. And towards the end of the festival, water bottles costed up to $22 in today's money. The heat coupled with the lack of water was not a good start to the festival, but things carried on. So like I said, the crowd was hot, drunk, agitated, and really they were just trying to have some fun.
We woke up one morning, there was no damn water for like half a day, man. I mean, everybody was bumming and it was hot as hell. And excuse my language, but there were like no water, man. It was like they're trying to kill us in here, and everybody was mad about that.
There was a lot of frustration about $10 burritos, and $5 hot dogs, things like that. So that's what we were catching when people were coming by. They were throwing bottles at the vendors and, you Woodstock, Michael Lang, and so that kind of, did it.
On top of that, the lineup for this festival was a whole lot different from the hippy-dippy lineup of the original Woodstock. Instead, they had all these intense hard rock and nu metal bands performing. Billboard described the vibe well when they said, "The 3-day event got progressively weirder, darker, and scarier as attendees whipped themselves into a testosterone frenzy to the strain of bro bands like Insane Clown Posse, Limp Bizkit, and Buck Cherry. This can be seen in instances like when female artists had a set and the crowd started chanting "show your tits," and they basically did that anytime there was a girl anywhere throughout the entire festival. Also throughout the festival, they were throwing bottles, cans, and whatever they had at multiple performers. Regardless, this wasn't the worst. When Insane Clown Posse performed on the first night, they did this thing where they taped hundreds of dollars to dodgeballs and yoga balls and threw them out into the crowd, which was pretty crazy and resulted in some fights. On the second night of the festival, Kid Rock performed and encouraged the entire crowd to throw anything they had, which resulted in a pretty crazy scene.
Now when we kick this beat in for the last time, I want to see every possible thing flying through the fucking air. These plastic bottles, let's have some fucking fun, y'all. Are you ready? What the fuck?
That same day, Fred Durst and the rest of Limp Bizkit played the song Break Stuff, and I'm sure you can imagine what this very rowdy crowd did.
During our performance, I saw people surfing on plywood.
That's some right there, that crowd surfing on the plywood.
I was like, that's amazing. How cool is that? I'm gonna go do it. So I jump down off the stage and I go out in the crowd and I'm telling them to bring the plywood over here and they're surfing it over. I had no idea there was anything negative going on at all. I remember getting off the stage and having some policemen with my manager come around me and say, Fred, I think you kind of incited a riot. They started ripping down buildings and the scaffolding, and that's the plywood you were surfing on. That wasn't from walkways going to the restroom. They were tearing down things, and there's people getting hurt. And I go, I didn't see any of that. Everybody I saw was having an amazing time.
As you can see, the crowd was tearing down pieces of plywood from the stage and probably other parts of the venue, and literally crowd surfing on them, which honestly looked pretty cool, but it all just added to the chaos. By the end of day 2, it seemed like the festival had just turned into chaos and anarchy. Fans were just straight up looting vendors for food and drinks, which makes sense seeing how expensive some of that stuff was. Like, it got so bad that the porta potties were overflowing and people started peeing wherever. Toilets overflowed, pipes broke, and it all got mixed together, which resulted in some people getting trench mouth and trench foot. That is just mind-boggling to me. If I had seen anything like that happening, I would have been gone. I would have drove right back home immediately. I even saw a comment on another video about Woodstock that said, I was there. The mosh pit by day 3 was called the knife pit because there were a few people high out of their mind swinging knives around while security just watched. So as you can imagine, part of the reason this all happened was because they had very poor security. They didn't hire regular security guards and instead got people from a job agency to work as the peace patrol. But these guys had little to no experience with security, and a lot of them just gave up on their job and just joined the crowd, which may have been funny had it not been for the fact that a lot of terrible stuff was going on during this festival. The last set of the festival was from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who at the end of their set wanted to do a cover of Jimi Hendrix's song Fyre. And you want to know what's ironic? Earlier that day, an anti-gun violence organization had passed out a bunch of candles to attendees in hopes that there would be a candlelight vigil for victims of Columbine. But what ended up happening was during Red Hot Chili Peppers' performance of Fyre, the crowd created giant bonfires using the candles, plywood, trash, and whatever else they could find. One of the fires spread to an audio tower and eventually it collapsed, and I can't believe it didn't fall on anyone. Apparently the fire department was even called, but they refused the call because they were scared of the audience, which is just insane. Like I said, it was just chaos. And eventually though, the police were able to disperse the rioters. Regardless, the majority of everything I just talked about can just probably be chalked up to a rowdy crowd. Like, most of this wasn't too bad.
It looks like an absolute war zone inside here. I can't tell you. There are cars turned over right by the stage. These trucks are just burning. And it looks like military police are just patrolling the whole area. They just told us we have to leave.
Regardless, the majority of everything I just talked about can just probably be chalked up to a rowdy crowd. Like, most of this wasn't too bad. That was, however, until after the festival that multiple reports came out about deaths and even that occurred during Woodstock. I just want to put a little trigger warning before this part because some of it's kind of graphic. On the first day, a 44-year-old man had passed away due to heat exhaustion, and it was later determined that it was a heart attack. On the second day, a 24-year-old had passed away due to hyperthermia caused by the heat. And on the third day, a 28-year-old woman was killed by a car while walking along a road on the way home from the concert. But probably one of the most harrowing things that happened at this festival was the alleged rapes rapes and sexual assault. A volunteer told MTV, "At one point I saw this girl, a very petite girl, maybe 100 pounds, who was body surfing above the crowd and either fell in or was pulled into a circle in the mosh pit. These gentlemen, probably in the 25 to 32 age range, looked as though they were holding her down. They were holding her arms, and you could see she was struggling." There were multiple other reports of rape and sexual assault as well. A police investigator told the Washington Post that 2 men cornered a 24-year-old woman from Pittsburgh in the mosh pit, assaulting her with their fingers and some type of foreign object before one of them raped her. Due to the congestion of the crowd, she felt that if she yelled for help or fought, she feared she was going to be beaten. There were multiple other reports of SA at this festival, but out of the 44 people that were arrested during the riots, only 1 person was actually charged with SA. Apparently, after Limp Bizkit's set, a worker from the stage pleaded, "Please, there are people hurt out there. They are your brothers and sisters. They are under the towers. Please help the medical team get them out of there. We can't continue the show until we get these dear people out of there. We have a really serious situation out there." However, similarly to the Astroworld situation, unfortunately, no one really got their help until after the fact, especially because medical services were understaffed as well. Some people tried to blame the artists like Limp Bizkit for rowdying the crowd up too much, but they defended themselves.
I don't think they understood that I meant, okay, let's get rid of all that negativity so we can bring positive in. That means start jumping, jumping and singing. It doesn't mean start and burning the place down. That's definitely not what I meant.
And I think most rational people have placed their blame on event organizers, since at the end of the day, like every other festival on this list, many of the problems that happened were caused by poor planning. I know that there are a lot of other festivals and concerts that have been total disasters, so if you want to see me cover some more, let me know in the comments and I'll make a part 2. These are just some of the crazier ones that I thought were more interesting to talk about, but open to doing more. And if you like this video, you might like my video explaining why concerts are so darn expensive these days and how Live Nation and Ticketmaster have monopolized the live entertainment industry. Other than that though, if you like this video, please consider leaving a like or even subscribing down below. And this has been your boy Matty Balls, and I'll see you guys next time.